What is up, y'all? Welcome on back to another episode of my deep dive series into Attack on Titan. This is episode 3. I'm going to be deep diving into season 3. If you are not caught up with the first 2 episodes of the series, fear not. Just click this link right here. It'll send you to that playlist. You can check out the first 2 episodes of the deep dive series. I wasn't sure originally how many episodes it was going to be. As of right now, it's going to be about 10 episodes, and I'm going to be releasing those every single week. For the next 10 weeks, you're going to be getting nothing but Attack on Titan content. So I reviewed season 1 and 2. We're going to do this one, 3, and 4, and then I'm gonna split up the final parts of specials, and then we have a couple of miscellaneous episodes to throw out there, just talking about the legacy, talking about like our theories of the characters, and then I'll break down the arcs, which one's my favorites, and the characters as well. So I have a lot planned for Attack on Titan. Make sure you hit that notification bell to let you know when these episodes drop every single week. But that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and dive into what you came here for, and that is Attack on Titan Season 3. I will be breaking down the main characters of Season 3, going to be jumping into some of the differences between the manga and the anime, and I will say this, I'll probably expand on it a little bit more as we kind of move through this episode. There's not a ton of differences between the anime and the manga that I have seen so far. I'm almost done. I'm on the last volume, so I'm right there at the end, guys. But we'll briefly go over some of the differences between the manga and the anime, and then give you my miscellaneous thoughts, as well as what I've been trying to do for these first 3 episodes of this Attack on Titan series is kind of give you the theme and what these characters go through all together throughout the season. And I think the first 2 episodes, I kind of spent time talking about the effects of war on the human psyche. And this one is going to focus on the dark side of humanity. So we'll be kind of discussing that just a little bit towards the back end of this episode. And then, of course, at the very end, I'll give you my overall thoughts of Attack on Titan Season 3. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the characters. We're going to start off with the main guy himself. We'll start off with Eren. So this season takes a little bit of a shift. We start seeing a progression of his character. We spend a good portion of the beginning of this season with training, pretty much. He's training his Titan form, learning to control its abilities. We really start peeling back the layers of his character, more so with like the lore and the world building aspects of it. So he really struggles with everyone risking their lives for him. His desire to kill all the Titans and his realization that he might not be as strong as he believes or wishes. He hates that he's always too weak and he can't do the things that he wants to do or needs to do to help his friends. Now, in the first couple of seasons, he's been pretty confident in his abilities, more so determined than anything, but he's always had this inner belief in him that he can kill every single Titan out there. And that's really the crux of his character, and kind of keep that going forward with the rest of the series. And he's always had that desire to kill every single Titan. This season, I feel like he's doing a lot of that self-loathing. His confidence is shot time and time again. It kind of goes back to some things that I've said on previous episodes where he talks so much shit and then immediately gets wrecked. I mean, he's a hype man for sure. He hypes himself up like none other. You're watching these scenes in the anime and you're like, oh, dude, he is about to go wreck some shit out there. And then he gets his shit wrecked. It's funny in a weird way, but he's so unsure of himself now throughout season 3, especially when it comes to plugging the wall and saving humanity from the Reiss Titan. Like, he starts punching himself in the face and like the hopes of like beating the hell out of a useless, pathetic brat. And then for him to finally get a win towards the end of the season where he cuts the nape of Bertholdt, that was so satisfying. That moment was completely earned. We've had moment after moment over 3 seasons where he's just really struggled with putting his his plans, his ideas into motion and killing every single Titan. And for him to finally get that after so many beatdowns, after so many losses, was really great. I loved all of those moments within the manga and the anime, just completely earned to me. Throughout the rest of the season, he's starting to have visions, memories. Historia's sister, Freda, we start getting pieces of her talking with Historia, but every time she leaves, Historia instantly forgets about her. Her and Eren both have these frequent dreams where they can't remember a thing that happened in the dream. Eren's father ends up killing Freda and other members of the Reiss family. But like I said, we're peeling back the layers of not just the personality of Eren, but the other dimensions of the character in regards to the lore and the explanation of him being a Titan. There's lots of foreshadowing, especially in the underground chapel. Eren thinking that he's been there before, and then just little subtle hints of the future throughout that would be, I guess, technically spoilers for the rest of the series. So I'm not going to mention that here. He finally learns that he turned into a Titan and that he ate his father. But all of that character development, that arc, comes to a head at the very end of season 3. We finally get them reaching the ocean. Eren and the others finally reach that basement that they've been teasing for up to 3 seasons now. And like the dude just instantly starts losing it. He's getting pumped with a lot of knowledge of the past. People start noticing him acting differently at times. And when you're reading the manga and then watching the anime, you can see this in real time, how he is just broken at this point. He is a completely different person once he reaches the basement. He ends up touching Historia's hand at one point and realizes that his father tried stopping the attack on Shiganshina. His eyes have finally been opened here. He's cold, reserved. They finally get to the ocean that him and Armin have had that dream of reaching since season 1. They finally get to the ocean, and he doesn't see it as a dream or freedom anymore. He sees it as a continuation of the war he's been fighting for years. So, like I said, a lot of that development revolves around that self-loathing, the fact that he can't catch a break. He's always a failure at everything that he does. And then the very end of the season, that's when we really get a tonal shift with his character. Now, granted, we don't really see the repercussions of that character shift in season 3. That's going to be saved for season 4. So we don't really get any of that, but we do see that this is a completely different character than where we started off with in season 3. So I want to talk about Armin next, and to really kind of start diving into his character a little bit, I do need to mention kind of like an overall aspect or theme of this season, which is this season really leans more into the political thriller genre. There's a lot of scheming, corruptions, overthrowing, all that shit's going on. Lots of moving pieces as we move through season 3. And this is really where the series starts expanding with some of the lore, which does make it, if you're watching it for the first time without reading the manga, you're just strictly watching it, it gets a little complicated and confusing. And by a little, I mean a lot. But Armin here, he suggests that they might have to get the masses on their side to overthrow the government, which is a big portion of season 3, and that they might have to start killing people instead of Titans. This highlights and introduces a new key theme of Attack on Titan. At its core, I think if you watch this series from season 1 through the ending, you will see that the general theme of Attack on Titan, at its core, there are no good people in this world. Every character is complex with their decisions and their morals. It's not necessarily black and white. And Armin really struggles with this idea, with the fact that he takes his first human life in season 3. He ends up killing a girl, and I want to say the girl was about to kill Jean when he killed her first, and he wonders why he was able to do that so quickly. And that's when Levi says she hesitated. Armin struggles with the fact that she was more human than he was, and that he didn't think twice about killing her, and that he didn't think twice about killing her. This also does highlight Levi just not giving a fuck about your feelings, especially when he tells Armin that, your hands are plenty dirty. There's no changing that now. Armin also struggles with anxiety of not making a mistake. He knows that finding Reiner and Bertholdt rest on his shoulders, but after putting that aside and thinking through everything, he figured out that they were hiding in the wall somewhere. He's also getting that recognition finally as a brilliant strategist and mind. Commander Erwin praising him for his mind and even tells the scouts to follow his command in search for Reiner and Bertholdt. He's nervous about the responsibility, but quickly realizes this is something that he has to do. But he's still not comfortable in the role because he gives those orders and he even stops to say please. So he's still not super comfortable with leading the scouts at any point, even like a small group of them. So that's just Armin at his core. But I also love how he puts everything on the line finally. Towards the back end of the season, he tricks Eren by saying that he's not a hero. He wants to eventually see the ocean before he dies. So all of this whole conversation leads you to believe that he won't die. And just like Erwin, he puts aside his desire for the good of mankind. He sacrifices himself for Eren to sneak attack and cut Bertholdt's nape and capture him. I love how this moment in the anime has no score, no music, nothing. It should be this celebration. It's a bittersweet victory. Everyone should be celebrating the win against Bertholdt. They finally killed the colossal titan. But one of the main characters was just killed, and you're left with this like confused boner, kinda. Oh man, this should be an awesome moment, but we just lost one of the main characters. And then I really love the back and forth between all of these characters when Levi is trying to decide whether Commander Erwin or Armin is going to get that Titan injection, and then they are going to feed on the colossal Titan. It even had a little fake out moment, and you fell for it because you really do care deeply for all of these characters, that the build up to this moment makes you think the absolute worst is going to happen. And this moment where we finally find out that Armin is going to be the colossal titan, it 100% worked for me because they have done the groundwork since season 1 and made you care for all these characters, that this moment, regardless if you predicted that it was going to happen or not, it still works and it is still earned because they did the legwork on the characters and made you care for them throughout the first 3 seasons. Next up, we have Mikasa. I wouldn't say that she takes a step back or more the back seat position as a character throughout the season, but there's definitely not as much character development or spicy moments with her character as the first 2 seasons. We do get a sense of her decisiveness where it looks like she almost just blanks out and she just goes in full rage mode, and she ends up doing that with Reiner and Bertholdt. And again, she's so decisive in those moments. She's one of the few characters that can talk the talk and walk the walk. The scene in the anime where they are deciding whether Armin or Erwin is getting the Titan ability, shout out to the voice actor there. I'm talking about the dubbed voice actor. She really elevated that scene. There's so much pain and despair in her voiceover. While both were impactful, I felt like the anime was able to tap into the more emotional side of this character and this scene in particular. And while through, I guess you could say 2.5 seasons, almost all of 3, but towards the end of the season, her headspace just gives way to another side of the character. We are used to her being dominant, decisive. She'll kill for Eren. And when she learns that he will die because of the Titan curse, she stops eating food and gel. She's diving into this state of depression about Eren's life being cut short and losing him forever. It's really nice to see a different side of her than we did the first 2.5 seasons. While we didn't get much of her throughout season 3, and in terms of like developing her character, I think the back end of this season does a lot with a little with her, and I really enjoyed those. I want to say it's like the last couple of episodes of the season where she is just in a tailspin on Eren dying eventually, and she just can't handle it. She ends up being sickly in jail. So I really loved what they did with Mikasa at the back end of the season. And then we have Levi, who has devoted his life to killing Titans, and now he's starting to realize that Titans are humans and that he has just been killing humans this entire time. The manga, which I've kind of caught on to, the manga seems to portray him as more of like warm. There's a lot more jokes in the manga than the anime with him, where like in the anime he's cold, straight laced, and I think he has some subtle humor in the anime versus the manga. Like, the manga, I was definitely, it got several chuckles out of me, but like if you're watching the anime, he keeps this reoccurring theme of I'm just gonna kick your ass throughout the seasons. And while it's funny, that's really all we get in terms of the humor from him. A lot of the other things, they're just really subtle. But I do love how Levi is never this is the right way or the wrong way to do things. He's always the guy that presents the pros and cons, and he refuses to tell you actually what's right or what you should do. Because he doesn't understand right versus wrong anymore either, because his moral high ground has been shot to hell. He is also not afraid to speak what's on his mind. He is such a savage. I say that in every single episode, and I will continue to say that in every single episode. He is very much an absolute savage. He hates Titans, but even more so, he hates the ones that die more easily because they are weak, which is a fascinating aspect to his character. So the fact that he just views other people who die super easily as weak, that just fits right along with his character. But throughout season 3, we do get tidbits of his backstory and the history of his family name, Ackerman. The royal family was concerned since they couldn't rewrite the memories of the Ackerman bloodline or the Asian bloodline. So they feared the Ackermans and started killing them off. Now let's jump into Commander Erwin for just a few minutes. We finally get the backstory on him, and in regards to his dad, he basically got his dad killed because he started talking about the reasons why no one knows the history of the outside world or the generation before the walls were built. And in true Commander Erwin fashion, he makes a big gamble and it pays off. He basically gets tortured by the MPs. He gets put on trial and then stages a fake Wall Rose Has Fallen story to convince everyone that the wealthy only care about themselves and the power they hold. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of the season is a political thriller more so than anything. And he's right there at the head of it all. He leads this coup to overthrow the royal government. And while I feel the manga handles his thinking and his mindset behind the coup a little bit better, I'm honestly kind of taken aback by what I kind of caught on to with this rewatch of Attack on Titan versus my first watch. He just regrets doing this. And it's not the fact that he regrets overthrowing the government, because he definitely wants that to happen. He's not upset by that. He regrets the lives lost. He hates the fact that he is deciding that Eren and Historia are more precious than the other lives of the soldiers that he has left behind over the years. And I think diving into the psyche of Commander Erwin was an interesting one. And the more I paid attention to this aspect of his character, made me love him even more. But the manga definitely portrays him as arrogant, overconfident, selfish. He ultimately lives to find out the truth about the Titans, to seek the secret in the basement, which is his end goal. He's a gambler, and when you really dig deep into his character, he very much lives and dies by the thrill of the gamble to get to that basement. Seeing that basement is worth risking the fate of humanity. And with that being said, the dude can get his shoulders hyped, okay? He's calculated in his decision, just overall, just a badass character. And in the end, he gives up that dream of seeing that basement for the greater good of mankind. And I think it is such a great character arc wrap where he has had all of his decisions have been based on whether or not to get to the basement. And for him to make the decision to, okay, you know what? While I would love to go see that basement, there are more pressing things here. We have to save humanity. There's no reason to go to that basement if humanity dies in the process. So he sacrifices himself for the good of mankind. We get the My Soldier's Rage speech, which is an all-time great speech. And for that to be his final battle cry was such a fitting end to his character, to lead a final charge against the Beast Titan. This whole part of the season was pretty violent and gory, especially the manga. Severed limbs everywhere, but I think this is a really great ending and completion of Erwin's character arc. He finally puts aside that desire, his obsession of going to the basement in order to help humanity win. Now I'm going to combine Reiner and Bertholdt because they're basically one and the same throughout this season. They finally show up in the back half of season 3. We finally find out that they were responsible for Marco's death because he overheard them talking about them turning into a Titan. But let there be no mistake about it. I might be combining these two characters for this discussion, but really both characters have a lot of depth to them. More so Reiner than Bertholdt, but they are so ready to end this war and go back home. They refer to Eren and the others as an evil race. Bertholdt has always been the weaker of the two. He wants to end everything so no one else has to go through hell. That affects him emotionally and mentally in a different way than Reiner, who just completely disassociates from reality and has two different distinct personalities. But Reiner, being the absolute savage that he is, tells Bertholdt that he's supposed to be the strongest of them, but he's not. And he's never considered him reliable. I was like, damn, bro, chill. You didn't have to do him dirty like that. Such a great moment between those two characters where you think they're besties, and then Reiner just fucking kills Bertholdt with that liner. But Bertholdt does get a good conclusion to his arc. He's been timid, weak, and cowardly for the entire series so far. He's been one of the weaker characters, in my opinion, but he finally takes a stand, doesn't care about Annie anymore, or at least that's what he tells Armin, and he's ready to do what needs to be done to kill everyone and take Eren. Now, I will briefly mention the Beast Titan. It's not really until the back end of the season that we start actually getting some moments with the Beast Titan. An enemy that's been teased for a while now. You can definitely tell that he's not like Reiner and Bertholdt. He's smart, cunning, filled with rage. I like the fact this Titan is completely different than all the others. Especially from like a design perspective. He's a really dope character. I just wish we had more of him, and I can't wait to explore not only his Beast Titan form, but the human form as well in season 4. Hange always liked her quirkiness and her curiosity and interest in the Titans. It really sets her character apart from all the others. It really seems to pick up the pace in terms of showing Hange more often in this series with season 3, which I am definitely all there for because Hange is a great character. I love the part where Eren is repeatedly turning into a Titan. He's exhausted, his body is fused with the Titan, and then she pulls him from the nape. His face gets pulled off during that scene. She absolutely loves it. I absolutely love it. She's asking people to draw a sketch and she's asking Eren questions. She's just totally nerding out over all of it. And side note here, the manga looks fantastic with the visuals. One of the more gruesome things in Attack on Titan for sure. But Hange, just a great character overall. Jean, always wary and at odds with Eren. Doesn't 100% believe in him as a savior, not his cheerleader whatsoever. Doesn't know if all the people that have died for Eren is really worth it. He really struggles with killing humans. He's not willing to do it even for Commander Erwin. And as I mentioned earlier, he hesitates for just a second in killing one of the soldiers of Kenny, the Ripper squad, and Armin ends up killing the girl first. Two more characters to talk about. First up is going to be Christa. She is absolutely broken up over Ymir choosing Reiner and Bertholdt over her. They were supposed to live together for their own sake, and Christa thinks that this is ultimately a betrayal, and she will not forgive Ymir for that. We get some backstory on her. She grew up on a farm. Her mother never spoke to her. The other kids could do whatever they wanted while she couldn't. The grandparents rarely talked to her, just total, absolute isolation. She just wanted something from her mother here. She mentions that obviously she would want love. That is what she wants the most. But really, she just wants anything. She wants any reaction, any emotion. Any of that would have been fine with her other than no emotion whatsoever. She got thrown back when she tried hugging her mom. Mom says she wished she had the courage to kill Christa, and then the mother left the farm completely. Eventually, her mother gets killed in front of her, and her backstory really draws you in and makes you care for her. It hits you right in the feels, and we eventually learn that Eren's father killed her sister Freda. She is absolutely being brainwashed by her dad. She's convinced that she will eat Eren and save humanity, but instead of doing so, she decides she's going to live for herself. She says, fuck humanity. She doesn't care about Titans or saving humanity, so she ends up freeing Eren in the process. So I really love what they did with Christa slash Historia over season 3. She was definitely one of the more interesting best characters of the season. The last character that I want to dive into is Grisha. So here's how we're going to handle Grisha, okay? The back end of season 3 is fucking stout. There is so much lore, there's so much explanation and world building here that we just don't have enough time in one episode to really effectively and efficiently dive into that and make it clear and concise to y'all. Because when you watch it for the first time, it is so complicated, so overly convoluted. I remember watching it for the first time and I didn't really understand what was going on. I just like, am I fucking stupid? Which y'all don't answer that question. But while I'm reading the manga and watching the anime, I'm writing down my notes, and it was like this could have been its own episode for this series. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. Next week's episode is going to be a little spin-off episode, and it's going to be basically detailing the world outside the walls. What happens from the basement and then the past. We're going to be diving into Grisha's character a lot more. The world and lore building that season 3 ends with is going to be the focal point of that episode. In order to do this deep dive series complete justice, I have to separate these two episodes. So I'm going to briefly go over Grisha, but stay tuned for next week as I dive into the world outside the walls and everything that happens in the basement. So Grisha's character, I definitely didn't remember like how much he was involved in the back end of the season. You know, when we get to the season 4 episode, I'm going to mention that this was almost like rewatching it for the first time again because I had forgotten so much of it. I finally caught up with the weekly releases with like I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes into part 1 of season 4, and after that, it just took me forever. So it's been a couple years since I revisited this portion of Attack on Titan. So it was like watching this for the first time all over again. But there is some really great character work here with Grisha. He is one of the more fleshed out characters in this story. And I think he's one of the more underrated characters for sure, especially when you go with like level of importance. I think if you move through this series, obviously you're going to have your favorite characters, your least favorite ones, but Grisha is one of the most pivotal, most important characters in Attack on Titan. A lot of his story is just absolutely heartbreaking to want to see the blimp, to be sort of responsible for his sister being murdered, his hatred building for Marley and boiling over, him meeting and falling in love with Dinah Fritz, leading the Restorationists, having a son that he was going to groom to become the founder Titan and save the Eldians, for him to be betrayed by his son, tortured by the Marlians, and then watch his wife get murdered, just to be told he needs to save the Eldians and wipe out the Marlians by going to Paradis and taking the founder Titan himself. To go from his worst moment to rebuilding his life and having a family, to have all that taken away from him for the cause of saving Eldians. The dude really goes through it at the back end of season 3. He's broken, devastated by how much he's lost, how many people have died for this cause. He even mentions that he would never have paid the price of losing everything. So all in all, Grisha is just a super tragic character that I can't wait to explore a little bit more on next week's episode. So now that I've explored a little bit of all of the main characters of season 3, it's time to jump into some of the differences between the manga and the anime. Up to this point, not a whole lot of differences. It's been like little minor things here or there. The big thing, probably the most, I guess I could say, the most different the anime has been from the manga. The anime is so much quicker. The first episode really moves through the storyline, but it pings around a lot more. The anime has usually been pretty good about being smooth from jumping to different things going on at the same time and being organized. The manga definitely played it much easier, but it also feels like it drags. The anime just streamlines everything to make the pacing a lot better. Like, the anime just sped through like 2 volumes of the manga just in an instant. That does leave some of the character stuff to the back burner, but I'll definitely lean towards the manga being significantly better here, even though the pacing is a little bit off. In regards to the underground chapel, when Eren transforms to shield everyone from it collapsing, the anime does a better job of showing this. In the manga, they say it's collapsing and then he transforms and that's it. There's just more tension in the anime to me. There's also an armor canister that gets briefly mentioned by Eren, and then it's like totally ignored. In the manga, there's actually a handful of panels talking about it and how he can now plug up Walmaria using it. So it has a little bit more, I guess, use in the manga versus the anime. So with every episode of the season deep dives, I'm trying to dive into some of the core themes and aspects of that season. At the core of season 3, there are no good people in this world. It's just really all about the dark side of humanity. Every character is complex with their decisions and their morals. It's not black and white. We really start to see humanity diving deeper into the abyss. The scouts start torturing folks. Titans aren't the only enemy now. They are willing to do whatever it takes to get answers. And in the end, can they even call themselves good guys anymore? Jean says he signed up to fight the Titans, and now they don't even know who their real enemy is anymore. At the end of the season, the owl mentions to Grisha that anyone can become a god or a devil. Who is to say they are wrong? It's all a matter of perspective. And that is really, at its core, the theme of season 3. Perspective. And I think once you go into season 4, that becomes more of the theme for Attack on Titan is, okay, I see you as the enemy and they see me as the enemy. Who is right in this situation? Attack on Titan is such a dark and depressing story. Its connections and how it parallels with the Holocaust, which we will dive more into with the season 4 episode. It just makes it all the more devastating. The sergeant major having no issues with genocide, telling Grisha that if he were born a Marlian, none of this would be happening, that all the Eldians are monsters because they are the only people that turn into actual monsters. So again, I absolutely loved the theme and core element of season 3, where it explores the human side of this story, where it's not just man versus monster. Now it's man versus man, who is the real enemy here? And it's all a matter of perspective. So let's go ahead and cap off this episode with some miscellaneous thoughts, and I'll give you my overall thoughts for season 3. It's been hinted at, but they finally explained that if a Titan eats a human who is able to transform, then that Titan can turn back into a human and gains the ability to transform. And that's really a lot of what season 3 does at the back end. It dives further into the mythology and lore of this world, and I just eat that shit up. This time around, I will say this: if you have the option to read and watch the anime and manga at the same time, do both. I have had the best time reading and watching this series, and I don't know of another series that I can, honestly, it's the first one I've done that with, but it's going to be an experience that will never be topped. And all the lore and mythology that I've picked up while doing this is just been super fascinating to me. It's just so expansive and in depth that as a first time watcher, like I've mentioned, it gets overly convoluted, but go through it a second time, go through it a third time, and it gets way easier with every watch. Now, I've saved the worst for last, so to speak. Kenny the Ripper, the storyline of this character is one of my least favorite aspects. I take that back. It is my least favorite aspect of Attack on Titan. I can't tell you how much I just genuinely do not like that character and that arc. You know, I think it's hard pressed to find an anime that can have a storyline throughout. Let's say it's telling a singular story, and this one has 34 volumes. You have like Dragon Ball Z, which takes place over, I forget how many volumes are in that. It's over 20. It's what, 26, 30, some shit like that. There's usually one arc in those storylines that just absolutely sucks. And Kenny the Ripper is the one for Attack on Titan. He just feels like a complete tonal shift. But I will say this, the action sequences are absolutely fantastic. Levi just absolutely shreds everyone. Total badass, like normal. But episode 47 in particular might be the worst episode of Attack on Titan, period. It was completely devoted to Kenny and his backstory. So we have an episode focused on a character that I just despise. I didn't care for it whatsoever. I really just don't like his character. I don't find him all that interesting, and he's just flat out boring to me. And the voice acting doesn't really help anything with that either. But I will say this: there are some visuals. I don't think it's episode 47. It's I think one of the couple episodes past that. The visuals of Kenny cutting Eren's forehead with the knife and then the blood pouring down his face, guys, top 10 fucking look visual of the series. That shit looked so fucking awesome. But the tension here is palpable for sure. Kenny wants Historia and Eren to duke it out in a Titan fight. All that was great. But when he was like the main focal point of an episode, it was just so hard to get through. It's going to be one of those things where I just skip through it from now on. Like, I really hate it that much. It's right up there. And if you have been following this channel for any length of time, you know that I despise the Garlic Jr. saga for Dragon Ball Z. This is right up there with one of my most hated arcs ever. I hate Kenny the Ripper. There's nothing about him that I enjoy. Now, I could be in the minority on that for sure. I personally don't find him all that appealing. But with all that being said, the return to Shinganshina, my fucking god, guys, that is one of the best arcs in anime, period. The tension that slowly builds with them arriving in Shinganshina, never knowing where Reiner and Bertholdt are, and then you find out there's probably a third person who we assume was the Beast Titan. Armin's taking control of a group of scouts to find them. They do a good job of making the situation dire and how they need to find them as quickly as possible. Like something is going to happen any second. It puts you on the edge of your seat and you never leave the edge of your seat. And they're scouring the walls, and one of the scouts ends up finding Reiner in the wall. Levi nearly cuts off Reiner's head. Reiner turns into the Armor Titan, and the Beast Titan shows up. Commander Erwin declares this to be the final battle, and that win or lose, things will be settled. And with the history of this series, you never know where this story is going with this final arc. And that is all the reasons why I think this is one of the best arcs, not in just Attack on Titan, but in anime, period. This arc was like the episode ended, give me the next one immediately. It was just so much fun. It was so badass. Some great choreography, great animations, the character building, the voice acting, 10 out of fucking 10. So overall, I thought season 3 was amazing. With the exclusion of Kenny the Ripper, I don't think this season missed whatsoever. I love the fact that they dive into some different themes, whereas like season 1 and season 2, it was all about how these characters deal with war and loss, death, and losing their friends and their families. The idea of absolute despair and depression, all those emotions in season 1 and season 2 was great. For them to shift that into a new core theme of who is the real enemy and how that theme is going to be explored over this season and next, it's just an absolute fucking chef's kiss. And it makes this one of the best seasons of an anime, period. But guys, what did you think about season 3 of Attack on Titan? What is your favorite arc of this season? Am I completely wrong about Kenny the Ripper? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. That's really going to help us improve and expand the podcast. We would greatly appreciate it if you did that. Thank you so much for sticking around with me for this very long episode diving into Attack on Titan Season 3. Again, next week, I'm going to be diving into more of the lore and world building that Season 3 ends on. And then the following week, we'll finally jump into Season 4. So go ahead and catch up on your Attack on Titan. Make sure you hit that notification bell to let you know when I post the next episode. But until then, thank y'all for joining me. I will catch y'all next time on the next one. Laters.